Ooh, we actually have some Dragon Ruler action for you. We get to see some Orcust leaping back into action, and Odion continues to evolve. Make sure you guys smash some crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. I gotta tell you, if there's one duelist out there that has been probably the most successful with Dragon Rulers, it's definitely gotta be Crique. He's been cooking up with his deck ever since it came out. He has not let it go. And he has continued to innovate this in, I would consider it to be a lot more positive directions, just to kind of see the developments that the meta has actually pushed this for, which has been kind of nice. Also, you do kind of have to, you're forced to play Dragon Ruler package in here, no, or a Tenpai Dragon package, because this gives the deck some actual, OTK gas, and it kind of lets you plug in your Tenpai monsters into the extra OTK pieces, just to make sure that, you can close out the game and be able to clear things out the way that you need to, and that does have merit. Even if, your only 2 spell cards within the deck is just Sengen Kaiman plus Sengen Summoning, it's enough to be able to combo up into the Synchro line in the X deck, and you're able to do things. And yes, Harmonia is a very critically important part to this deck. Harmonia actually, being able to have a Harmonia plus a 3, nobody really talks about that being absolutely crazy Transcendent Dragion access. You just get Transcendent Dragion access right off the bat. Now, should that be allowed? That's a story for another day, but that is kind of crazy that, we can just, jump straight into that. So I do like that. Also, you still have these standard little extra deck lines here, the Promethean Princess to help revive one of these pieces. There are good enough pieces to understand why this deck is able to work, but Dragon Rulers, definitely still good. Also sphering into a Quackimera Drago, also can just kind of win you some free games, so looks good to me. Next up here, we get to see Orcust. The OCG's back on Brass Bombard right now, and as you'll see in every, TCG-ification of this deck, we won't touch Brass Bombard with a 10-foot pole, because we're just like, Brass Bombard is so shit. Why would anybody actually, want to choose to explore that card? And I get it. I do. I think Brass Bombard can be really terrible, but with the way that the TCG is adapting this deck, you get to play 6 Dominuses. Yay! So unfair that we get access to, this combination of level of interruption, controllability, but it's fine, because as long as you go, for Orcust combo, you get set up, on the big guy here, and you have Dominuses to control your opponent with a Crescendo. 99% of the time, unless your opponent opened up the literal nuts, you've probably just won the game. There's not really much ifs, ands, or buts about that. That should be enough on the control spectrum for you just to be able to get the job done. I also see here we are playing some virus cards. Deck Dev and Eradicator. I think that this is actually a pretty cool inclusion into the deck. Obviously, you're going to be 2,500 or more attack. Well, that's really easy. It's also a really funny time where maybe you can get the Gorgon popped off here to be able to fuel into one of these 2 viruses. Because, attack modifiers are pretty cool. Also, we are doing the Thrust Illusion Gate playline. That's been coming up a lot more lately. It's kind of disgusting just to know that, this combination of cards is able to, board break the opponent way harder than we've previously seen into other formats. And honestly, this is kind of scary. The reason why, you're even choosing to play this combination of things is just to be able to push and go. All right, what else we got back here? This was a list from YCS Columbus that popped up that really took me off guard. I had seen one previous build that was kind of combining Odion and Blue Eyes together, but it wasn't something that I really gave much thought, in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I guess this is a combination of things that we could do, but it's like, is it going to be able to do things? And you fast forward into Columbus, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, it's back. So one couple of things to note here that are really funny. Man with the Mark is in fact a spellcaster monster. So For all intents and purposes, he can turn into Spirit with the Isa Blue to be able to bridge you into, Field Spell so that you can extend down through Sage with Isa Blue. It's a pretty funny little interaction that you can actually do. And it's one that it's like, when one engine in a deck can actually, tag into another one, we do get to see some, little hilarious rewards. I'm not going to say that this deck is massively consistent, but it was good enough to truly make top 64 out of one of the bigger events of the year. And it actually kind of proved us it's able to do its thing. Also, the Anubis stuff gives you the control aspect of the trap cards, something that, like, Blue Eyes itself doesn't necessarily have. And what do I mean by that? Your deck is just set up big monsters go. And then, this provides you with a defensive presence on the field that you can then kind of curve and figure out, oh, hey, this is where I need to go in order to get my board set up. Also, board breakers, man. Holy crap. They are bringing in everything to be able to clear up problems just to be able to get themselves into a safer situation. So it's actually kind of cool. I like this list a lot. Next up here, we get to see kind of where the Magistus pile has been going with the fairy tale good stuff. So Spellcaster pile. So this deck, I think, has become one of the most interesting decks within the TCG to kind of explore, because there's just so many cool little things and so many little niche interaction plug-in points that you can get to. I mean, for Christ's sakes, man, we get to play Metamorphosis in this deck, and, like, that's already something absurdly cool within the space. Also, Crowley being able to count as Alistair gives you access to Makaba, which suddenly, turns you on into a monster negate. And don't forget, we do have Genia of the Ring. They actually gave us, a TCG exclusive monster to help out. Now, for those of you that probably haven't read Genia, if this card is in your hand, you target a face-up monster on the field, special summon this card, and that target becomes a spellcaster monster. So you get to convert something on the field to a spellcaster. Sure. The next time that target will be destroyed by a card effect this turn, it is not destroyed. It cannot special summon from your deck for the rest of this turn except for spellcaster monsters. I mean, okay, so we get locked out of Makaba, but I mean, like, and, oh no, Ninaru. But everything else here is, effectively fair game. So you lose access to 2 extra deck points, but for an extra extender for you to be able to kind of keep things going, and also, it does get Wickcat up in line, or up and running. Yes, I think there is application in theory to be running through with some of these play lines of this deck. So I do like what this deck is attempting to do. I think there is a lot to be said within these lists, especially for, like, testing out, Metamorphosis just turning into, the teller of fairy tales. Definitely a list. And then we have the Clown Crew. I've been surprised by what I want to call is, like, the lack of clowns within the meta. I don't necessarily think the clowns are doing too terrible, but it's just like, with where we're at right now, is that, like, surprising? I don't know. This deck is still doing the Novelez package. Novelez and the Culinary Confrontation is so good. Especially, when you can get Pastille up and running. There's just a lot of, like, cool play lines you're able to do with this. I also do see we're doing the standard Mulch armies. We're side decking the Vanities Ruler. I'm surprised that they're choosing to play Vanities Ruler, but also you're getting pretty nasty with this deck, because this is where you're bringing in Clown Crew Biancavasio to be able to hand your opponent the Sphere mode to board break during their turn. It's actually quite hilarious just to know that during the opponent's turn, we can deploy one big ball over their field, and they're just left with, a really terrible situation to be able to kind of clean things up. And I do appreciate that. That's definitely been, like, one of the more highlight things that this deck has actually had access to. So some interesting little choices within the meta. I like what we're seeing right now. I like that the developments are actually kind of showing some pretty cool little things. We'll continue to kind of keep an eye on things here and just see where we're heading with the developments within the meta. But please take a second to leave a comment down below. Anything cool from this video you guys enjoyed. You guys stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, right? patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.